Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rebel Collective. I am your host, Laura Eisenhower.
And I'm your co-host, Drago Reid. We are the Rebel Collective, just two rebels that have been deplatformed, deleted, shadow banned, persecuted, and muzzled, and we're leading other rebels and pioneers in their fields and giving them a voice that can't be silenced, because we are the resistance. Jason Quitt is a special one. I've been following him for a long time, always behind the scenes. I've met him numerous times at shows, just briefly, never really introduced myself, never really told him who I am, but I'm just going to get right up into his bio. Jason Quitt is a prominent figure in the realm of metaphysics and esoteric consciousness, recognized for his exploration of consciousness and ancient wisdom. With a diverse background spanning various metaphysical disciplines, Jason has dedicated his efforts to unraveling the mysteries of the universe and delving into the profound connections between mind, body, and reality. Known for his engaging lectures, writings, and public appearances, Jason Quitt has shared his insights into topics such as ancient civilizations, sacred geometry, extraterrestrial phenomenon, and the exploration of alternate states of consciousness. His work often incorporates a holistic approach, drawing from traditional wisdom and contemporary perspectives. Quitt's expertise extends to the exploration of energy healing, quantum mechanics, and the integration of esoteric knowledge into modern understanding. Through his books, talks, and interviews, he strives to bridge the gap between the ancient wisdom and contemporary consciousness, offering a unique perspective on the interconnectedness of all things. As an author, lecturer, and consciousness explorer, Jason continues to inspire and provoke thought, inviting individuals to expand their understanding of reality and explore the vast realms of human potential. You can find his work at thecrystalsun.com. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thanks for having me. And thank you for that introduction. That was, I think, the best introduction bio I've ever heard. So thank you for
Oh,
that.
wow. I wrote it up just for you, man. That's awesome. You liked it. I really appreciate that. It took a lot of thought, man.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, it was great seeing both of you. I think it was in Las Vegas just a couple months ago, not even a couple months
That's
ago.
right, at the Luxor. And
Yeah.
you got a nice pyramid award. What was that award for again?
Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it on my
Oh,
shelf.
there it is. Oh, sweet. That's amazing. So
Um,
deserved. You've been just sharing unbelievable research and information and wisdom and knowledge. And I'm so thrilled to have you here with us. And so, Jason, let's start at the beginning of your journey, though. What sparked your interest in exploring the realms of consciousness, and how did it all really begin for you?
it's a great question. And I would say that I was born with some type of psychic connection still with me. So as a child, I always had these experiences, like past life experiences, um, poltergeist, ghost experiences, shadow experiences, out of body experiences. But all of that kind of went away. Um, I think after I was about 13, 14, possibly, all of that just kind of went away and I forgot about all of it. And then it wasn't until my early 20s where I started to have sleep paralysis, which is an awakening that a lot of people in this community go through, is going to sleep and having basically your body frozen and you start to feel things walking around the room. So it was in that point of my life where things started to open up for me again. And this was back, just to age myself a little here. This was back in 2002. So now that's about 22 years ago from now. And basically, I started to have these experiences where I'd be frozen at night and I'd be struggling to wake up. My body would be paralyzed and I would kind of shake myself to wake up. And one night I shook myself so hard to wake up, I didn't actually wake up. I popped myself out of my body and had an out of body experience. And it was just like what they describe in near death experiences. I found myself out of my body on the ceiling, looking down at myself in bed. And it was a real slap of reality. You know immediately you're not hallucinating. You know immediately that this is not a dream. It's too real. In fact, it feels more real than anything else I could describe. And as I started to see the room around me, I noticed that there was a giant figure standing at the foot of my bed. As people would describe it as a shadow person. It just looked like what people would describe as a grim reaper, but without the sickle, just like this cloaked being that was very tall and very dark. And this obviously scared me so much that I got sucked back in my body and woke up. And that was my first experience again in my 20s that basically opened me up again to the paranormal, to leaving the body, to contact experience. And that led me on the path that I'm on today, which is trying to figure out this whole other world that's basically just outside of ours, but is intimately connected to ours. And, how does it work? How does it influence us? And is it true that we are basically eternal beings living multiple lives on multiple dimensions? And this is just an experience for learning. So this is where I am. And it's been, again, like over 20 years of me just trying to figure this stuff out. And in the process, I've gone through a lot of change. I've had to shed a lot of belief systems and learn a lot of lessons to get to where I am.
Wow. Very cool.
You said that you felt that you were going insane and almost going through a mental breakdown when all this was happening. What was that like to be alone and have no official mechanism to really talk to anyone and have to deal with all this yourself, more like a dark night of the soul?
Absolutely. And remember, this is back when it was Yahoo search or AOL search. There wasn't YouTube back then. It wasn't very easy to look this up and find answers. Luckily for me, we have a psychic in the family. So I turned to her, started to ask questions about these things and, get some answers. But I knew that if I were to talk about my experiences to just a normal person, they would look at me very differently. And that's what they did when I first started to talk to my friends about it. My friends never looked at me the same again. And when I spoke to my family about it, my family never looked at me the same again. I remember, one night, breaking down because it's a very heavy emotional burden to, have one foot in this world and another foot in the other world. And I remember, telling my father what was going on, and he was looking up psychiatrists for me and thought, Jay is schizophrenic and things like that. So I knew that, like, opening up and bearing your soul to family and friends, if they don't understand and they, and most people don't, um, it's a hard go. But when I spoke to my cousin, she's been a psychic for many years, and she really helped work through these things with me. And she actually helped guide me. At the time, she was doing qigong, and she thought that would be the answer for her because she has things that she has to work out as well. And from my experiences, I was told I need to do this as well. So I started to learn qigong and really started to get into this healing journey. And from there, I went to energy medicine school. And then from there, I went and started to learn shamanism. And all these things really helped ground me to try to figure out what was going on. And it's a very strange thing because in our society, in the Western society, when we start to have these awakening experiences or, see ghosts or have contact experiences or channeling or any of these things, or past life memories coming back. You go to talk to someone in the Western world, and it's almost like there's something absolutely wrong with you. When you go to talk to, let's say, someone from the native community, I go talk to a shaman. Uh, these are the stories, and this is what they've been talking about for generations. It's completely normal in that society. It's not hidden. It's not looked down upon. In fact, it's a connection to spirit. So for them, it's very open and honest. And if you go to the Eastern civilizations, they do qigong, which is now kind of banned in China, but they have these Eastern philosophies, especially in Buddhism and other religions, Hinduism, that goes into past lives, goes into reincarnation, um, goes into even in Japan, the kami, the nature spirits. So it's almost like there's this rich tradition of this knowledge found all over the world. But once you kind of get into the Western mind, it's stamped out. And basically, once you start to experience these things, there must be something wrong with you, because that can't exist in this type of society. So, lucky for me, I was able to find a group of people back early on in the early 2000s that helped me get on my path.
Wow, that's amazing. So getting on your path, what has that meant for you? What like healing tools and modalities do you work with? And take us into the books that you've written, or the one that's just come out.
Sure, sure. The first modality I got into was Qigong. And this is just basically like meditative postures, very similar to what you see in the park with Tai Chi, just moving energy, moving postures through the body. And the whole concept is to reconnect yourself to the electromagnetic grid, the universal forces, cultivate the energy and move the energy through you. Because the philosophy is, as we move through this world, we pick up numerous energetic things, blockages, attachments, entities, from your emotions, from your mental body, your spiritual body. And basically, when you learn how to not only feel the energy, but connect with the energy, then you can start to um, almost become aware of how the energy is interacting with your body, what's good and what's bad. And as you start to circulate through these meditations, you can actually extract and move and heal using just the life force energy. So I started out with those practices and philosophies, and then I got into energy medicine. And what I was really studying was plant medicines, essential oils, all the different things. Learned various techniques using different plants. And then I got into stones, using crystals. And that's what led me into shamanism, which is the combination of all of it. It's the combination of using the life force, using the mind, using the crystals, using the elements, basically, the plants, to work through the traumas, work through whatever we're carrying, and helping others through that process. So that was kind of like my personal path. And remember, when I got into this, I only got into this because of me. I never had this kind of idea that I'm going to be teaching, or I'm going to be lecturing or writing books. I never thought of that. All I wanted to do was take care of myself, because um, I wasn't doing well with all these things. But as I got kind of taken into the community, where I started out first was, I would say, the healing community. Before the conscious community, I was in the healing community, and I was always drawn to healers. And I would go out, and when we would meet with people, I would just talk with the people in the class or the teachers, and tell them about my experiences. And that really gave me the confidence to open up and talk publicly about what was going on with me. And once I started opening my mouth, which uh, once I started opening my mouth and speaking my truth, that's when people really wanted to hear more. And that's how I kind of got into this community with writing books. And it started off with a talk that I did at the Alien Cosmic Expo back in 2015, I believe. Now, I wasn't really connected to the alien community, the UFO community. And I met you shortly after. I think I met you in 2016 at Contact in the Desert.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how fast I got into this community. And basically what happened is I was asked to do a talk at Alien Cosmic Expo, which was in Toronto. And my topic was the shamanic perspective of contact and contact experiences. Because when I was leaving my body and going on these journeys, there were cases where I would come in contact with beings that are frequently talked about in the UFO community. So like mantid beings, reptilians, grays, things like this. And for me, from the healing shamanic side of things, this was happening in out-of-body experiences. So I already knew that this wasn't a physical experience. I already knew that I was leaving my body and entering into this other realm, which is part of the earth realm, I'll call it, part of the astral. And so I would describe these experiences I'd have out of body, and I would describe it as these are the stages of out of body experiences. These are the stages of altered consciousness. And these are the type of beings that you may come in contact as you go through these stages of out of body or altered states of consciousness. And it's a very different perspective that most people are used to in the UFO community, where it's mostly engaged around nuts and bolts, flying saucers, abduction experiences that they say are 100% physical abductions, physical experiences. And then I come along and say, I've had all these types of experiences that were through out of body and altered states of consciousness. And I started to have these experiences with the same thing that people in the contact community are describing as abduction scenarios. So as I gave this talk, there was a gentleman in the audience named Bob Mitchell, and he was a writer for the Toronto Star. He was a very famous writer in Toronto, and he said he's never heard this kind of perspective before when it comes to abductions. Would I be open to writing something with him? And I said, sure. And as we started writing, he realized that it wasn't just like an article. We had so much information, we could write a book. And that's how I got into this community. Is I wrote this book with Bob Mitchell called Forbidden Knowledge. And it's no longer in print, but the moment I wrote that book, he got me on Coast to Coast, and the rest is history. Then I got taken to Contact in the Desert, where I met you for the first time. And I've kind of been on the sidelines of the UFO community for quite some time, just because my perspective is a little different than what's normally accustomed to the UFO community. But I'm very happy I'm here. I got to meet so many wonderful people like yourself and Drago. It's good to finally meet you too.
Yeah, you too, man. I have a bunch of questions for you, man. It was
Sure.
actually, I think, Contact in the Desert 2016 when you signed this book to me.
Yes.
I bought a bunch of books from you, man. Like I said, I've been following you for a long time, and your research has been pivot to dyslexia. Pivotal. Sorry, I have a
Yes.
traumatic brain injury. The smallest of words always twist me around. But if you want to talk about complicated quantum mechanics and physics, I'm the guy. But small words, I apologize.
That's
Yeah, man,
awesome.
it's a really good book. You talk about the history of the cosmos a little bit. You talk about when you would astral travel, you actually got to meet Osiris and you got to see what these postures meant, and you got to meet Thoth. So many cool things, man. Like, your books are awesome. They're just a treasure trove of information. The Egyptian postures of power, you got the Yosef codes, sacred geometry. Like, I see that you were truly in these Egyptian mystery schools, because a lot of the studying I've done, everything you're presenting, this is straight up mystery school stuff. So it's pretty amazing. I have two questions.
Sure.
Getting back to your spiritual awakening, having having something happen like that so far back, what was it like to be called schizophrenic from people that you confide in, and knowing that the Rockefeller medicine, the only option was to diagnose you with schizophrenia? I mean, going through something so profound, and it's happening so much around the world to so many people. And unfortunately, that's the term most psychologists and therapists will throw on people. Anytime you start talking about a spiritual awakening, extraterrestrials, angels, you're automatically schizophrenic. And it kind of dissuades people from stepping forward. Today's a little bit different, because I would say 10 years ago, it was a little bit harder, because I've been a lifelong experiencer my whole life. And just like you said, you try to tell people about these things, but the way they look at you, it makes you feel subhuman. It makes you feel like you're crazy. And you always have to throw that caveat out. I know it sounds crazy, but, or if you can believe it, you know what I'm saying? So, like, once you figured out that you had all these issues inside your body, why Chi Lao specifically?
Well, Qi Lao is just another form of Qigong. And it was the one that was being taught that my cousin invited me to. So it was the first one I was exposed to. I didn't really know anything else. There was a Qigong studio near me, um, but I didn't feel comfortable there. And it was a different type of Qigong. But for some reason, I felt very comfortable doing the Qi Lao. And it was a very incredible experience because um, it, the my first teacher that taught Qi Lao to me, um, I didn't know this at the time, but they were actually dying of cancer, you know? So it's like you're getting into this modality, which is supposed to be a healing modality, but the teacher themselves, they were dying. Um, and so they actually died very early on, maybe a year or two after I started learning from them. So it's very, I would just say it's interesting because um, there is something very sacred about learning these things and its connection to death. And I think that learning that, working on your energy here in the physical world, just like the Egyptians, they're working on themselves in the physical world to set up the afterlife or to set up their energies as they pass. So it's an interesting experience learning from someone going through that experience. Um, and then from there, I would practice my Qi Lao. And I started to, what, what happened is I was at this health show. It was around, trying to remember exactly when, maybe 2005 or pretty long time ago. And there was a booth that was selling these cylinders, these rods. I usually have a pair right next to me, but they're not here. But anyways, I have these rods. They're like ferrocylinders. And I started to meditate with these stones. And I didn't know what I was doing with them. I would just kind of hold them before practicing Qigong. And I felt so much more energy using these stones. And then I started to have these out of body experiences at night where I'd be taken to temples in Egypt or the astral worlds or back in time. I don't know how this happens exactly, But basically, you find yourself in a temple, and there's a person in front of you, very ancient. It looks like just like the statues in Egypt. And they were standing in a posture. And all I did was copy the person standing in the posture. And I can feel something opening up over my head, and it feels like a solar waterfall is the only way I could describe it, going through your body. And it was just such a powerful, profound experience that I woke up. I'm like, wow, these postures are incredible that I'm learning from these journeys. I started to write them down, and then I started to show them and talk about them to my cousin who is into Qigong. And she helped me channel the meanings of what these postures were. And then I just started to practice these Egyptian postures instead of the Qi Lao. And I found that for me, for my energy, they were so much more powerful than the Qi Lao that I stopped doing Qi Lao and any other Qigong. And I just started to do the Egyptian postures as my practice. And all these things started to open up to me. And that's when I started to tell people about it. And once I started to tell people about these postures, they wanted to also use them. So I made a little booklet way back when, like 2007, 2008. I made this little booklet with the postures. And I started to go around and teach healing communities, dowsing communities, how to do these postures. And I still think that it's the most popular thing that I've put forward in my life so far. I mean, there's such a demand for those postures that they have to be divinely guided, because when something has a life of its own, I don't need to really advertise them. It's just the word of mouth of these things just gets out, and it has a life of its own. So during COVID, had a lot of time at home. So I put together the official book, the first book of the Egyptian Postures of Power. And still doing this, I'm still learning these healing modalities. And the only thing I could tell people about these things is that the body is a reflection of the universe, follows the same laws of energy. And as we attune ourselves to these natural forces, it's kind of breaking down the programs that have been put into us for thousands of years, and kind of realigning us to the natural way of presenting our energy to the world. And growing up, I had a lot of problems. Like you just brought up, like the simplest words you have issues with. Well, I used to stutter. I used to, I really couldn't, I pretended I could read, my spelling was atrocious. Dyslexic, like I had all these issues that I kind of just hid. I also had physical issues like stomach issues. And as I practice Qigong, it's a way of taking control of your energy. So as you take control of your energy and rebuild and restructure your energy, suddenly I became like an avid reader. My speech, my spelling, my shyness, like just everything that held me back growing up, it stopped once I took that step into taking responsibility for my own energy.
Did the nature of the visitations or kind of paranormal and spiritual experiences, how did that change as you began to move in that direction?
All right. And this is where things get complicated, especially trying to speak honestly about these experiences, because the first 5+ years was terrifying. I was dealing with like sleep paralysis. I was dealing with entities trying to pull you out of your body, put things in your mind, basically manipulate you. And this is how I had to learn everything. Basically, it forces you to learn about discernment because you really can't trust anything. All right. If a message comes in your mind, you have to question that message. If a being comes to visit you and they're doing stuff for you or trying to give you something or take something, you have to question all of these things. And it takes time to understand and learn. And when you first get into this, I want to say you're like a baby. You don't understand what's going on. You have to kind of put faith and trust into these things around you, which may not be the best ideas. And this is why, personally, I believe Qigong or these type of practices are so important, is because our energy fields, as they are, the average energy field, I'll say, is pretty weak and sick. And because the average person's energy is weak and sick, it opens us up to forces that we don't understand. And those forces manipulate, can pull our energy, can take our energy, basically feed off of us. And there's a lot of ancient philosophies about this. We have the archons, we have all these things. But, if we strip all of this away and we just talk about what's happening, is that when you start to leave your body and going out and having these spiritual experiences, you're like a bright light, and then suddenly all the mosquitoes come to you. And if you are not ready for that experience, or you're weak energetically, these type of experiences can be very damaging for people. So it's not just, sunshine and rainbows and ascension. If you are not ready for these type of experiences, if your energy is unbalanced, it can cause a lot of problems where people do experience true schizophrenia or true disturbances, paranormal, poltergeists, entities, voices, possession. These are very dangerous things that, in my opinion, well, it's not really my opinion, but it is real. There is a real side to this. So this is why, I have to caution people about, don't jump in head first into this. I've been doing this for 20+ years with training and with teachers, and I'm still learning. I don't know when that learning will stop. So, yes. So it took maybe 5 years of just fighting entities, having bad experiences, to start taking control back of my energy field, where you get to a place where your energy field is strong enough where they stop bothering you, and you can it's hard to say this because I don't want to say it from like an ego place, but it's more like at first you're afraid of them, and then you get to a place where you're strong enough energetically and they become scared of you. And that's the place where we have to kind of bring people to, is where they're standing in their own power, where those forces or those things that are manipulating us, they stay far away from us because they're in danger, not us. And that's where the spiritual practices come in, and you have to have a very strong mind, because I've seen so many people fall into these traps where they get into these thought forms or these emotions, and they don't even realize it's not their thoughts and it's not their emotions, and it's something else pulling those strings to get them to act. And I've seen it at the highest levels of the spiritual community. And so that's why I always say it's an individual path, it's an individual journey. And once you get to a certain stage, I don't really know too many people that will hold your hand through it. You have to learn yourself.
It was through the process of QHHT that I discovered that it's your lifestyle choices that attach these beings. And they can come in forms of pain. They attach to your chakras, they attach to body parts. And what it's taught me is your thoughts can attract these things. Drugs can attach these things. Extreme abuses of yourself, knowingly harming yourself, attaches these beings, because people need to realize that if you can imagine the analogy that we're in a sea of darkness and the ones that do the most work are the most brightest. So you're right. It's like a beacon so bright that the mosquitoes will see you from millions of miles away. And if you do not purify your light body, it allows by cosmic law for them to enter your light body. I feel it's almost as if it's a lesson. And I've been doing QHHT for about 5 years now. I've done over 500 people, and I've discovered a lot. And just the pain aspect, the amount of pain that these beings can cause. And you're right, they do talk to you, and they make it sound like it's your own thoughts. So anytime I have some weird self-defeating thought that I know that does not, it doesn't come from me, I always ask myself, where did this come from? I would never say this. This is not what I believe in. And I will literally say, any beings sending me this information, I automatically leave you to leave my light field. This is my body. I do not consent to you hijacking me. I do not consent to you using my energy. And I demand you to leave. And I always imagine we were actually taught a double pyramid of white light. One of your interviews, maybe as one of your books, you said that there is no real protection from something like that, because no matter what posture you do, no matter what modality you do, you have to go through that dark night of the soul. You have to purify yourself. You have to remove these things that attach these things. So around 20 years ago, I stopped doing all chemicals, meaning no over-the-counter drugs, no prescription drugs, no chemicals on my body, organic everything. I eat organic produce. I don't go out to restaurants with people. I only drink spring water. And I've been doing this for over 20 years. And I'm also a vegetarian of 8 years. So I've been doing the work for a long time. And to other people, they look at you like you're insane. Why would you do this? Why would you be so fundamental and not break something as simple as drinking tap water? It's people like us, man. We know some of the answers to the universe, and there's some tenets that we can't break. And you have to step into that power. And going back to you discovering the Shungite, I think you said you were at I think it was a conference in Toronto, July, and you met a guy named Mars. And the moment you picked up this Shungite, you started feeling pain. And the Shungite taught you that it was a teacher to identify where the pain comes from. And then after that point, you would start having these daily pains that you had to focus on and go through that dark night of the soul to come out of that darkness, because people don't realize there is no easy way to do this. No matter what master you talk to, there's no shortcut, man. You have to throw yourself in the abyss of darkness, and you have to come out. If not, you're right, you can get lost. You can really suffer from true schizophrenia, because if you're not careful, you can introduce yourself into a world of beings you never knew existed. And at that point, if you don't know what you're doing, man, they're going to take you for a joyride. The second thing is, I'm really sorry to hear that happened to your teacher, because the Qilao Institute in China was known. I remember seeing this video, you've talked about it before, where it showed one of the practitioners doing live. I remember he was using his hands, and you can see tumor shrinking literally on an MRI. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. So to know that it's so powerful of a technique, and it still took the life of the teacher. Man, what was the real lesson in that, being that you could have healed that? Or was the lesson he was supposed to just pass then and just die, you know?
That's the thing is, sometimes we're just called out of here, and they say there's no cure to death. When it's your time, it's your time. And there's a peace kind of understanding and knowing that. There's a lot of people that, fight death to the last breath, which is fine. That's, what you do. But that's not the easiest way of dying. So, when I started to heal people at first, with the shamanism and things, for some reason, my first clients were people that they were basically sent home by their doctors. So my first clients were basically already dead, and they came to me as a last hope that, maybe working with these different modalities, they'll somehow survive these things. And I found that just working with them and being with them um, changed the way they saw the outcome. They found peace before they died. So I don't understand the reason why certain people are drawn to these things or not drawn to these things. But I would just say that we're all going to go there someday, some sooner than others. And these teachings, what we're talking about, they carry through lifetime after lifetime. So it's not like we're climbing a mountain and then we fall off of it. It's like we take these skills, we take this knowledge, we take this energy, even though the body perishes, goes back to the earth, we take that knowledge and energy with us wherever we're going. So that's kind of my thought process. And I think it's a lot more peaceful, and it lets go a lot of fear, especially people that are dealing with these type of situations.
For sure. What do you think about like post pandemic? I mean, and whatever next wave is coming, and what you've noticed in the energy of people. I heard that the rate of exorcisms has increased, or people that are just like really possessed, and just the entity attachments have got to be at an all-time high because of the frequency distortions and this next level of indoctrination and what is happening in our schools. What are you noticing as like a practitioner and as a very energy sensitive and psychic type person? And how does that make you feel? And what prognosis do you see for individuals that are kind of caught in that with sort of an unconsciousness that would, I mean, I guess if they turn their attention to somebody who understands on a deeper level than the conventional medicine, hopefully there's some hope. But what are your thoughts in navigating this since all of this went down, pandemic, post all that?
Well, I'll just say that we are so programmed by our environment, our culture, what we're shown online, social media, and news, um, and people that kind of got wrapped up and stuck in this pandemic. And when I mean stuck, I mean I've basically been at home alone with my wife for 3, 4 years now. So it basically stopped our life from going out and seeing family and friends, or going to conferences. Many people are working from home, and because of that, the things inside of us um, need to be distracted. So a lot of us will turn to addictions or obsessions, or basically you're going to either drown in your energy or you're going to ascend with your energy. So if you're not used to being by yourself, being in your own energy and feeling your own energy, it could cause a lot of problems because it's the same thing with fasting or going out into nature. Like there's shamanic traditions where you go out alone into nature and you just basically sit there and fast on a mountain or a hill. And basically what happens is all these things that you're carrying, uh, your your thoughts that you're suppressing, emotions that you're suppressing, health issues that are being suppressed, when you are alone and by yourself in your own thoughts, all of these things will start to bubble to the surface. So it could be a lot for people that don't understand this path. And if we talk about entities, this is the perfect opportunity. Look how much addiction has gone up. Look how much more deaths from opioids. You know, there's so much more happening because people are alone with themselves. They don't know what to do with their time. Remember there's a reason why I took the book off the market, and Drago, you have the book. I really don't know what I was thinking writing certain things in here, because when I wrote this book, I never thought that what I saw in my prophetic visions 20 years ago would ever come true, would never. And now this book scares me to death because there are things in here that could happen tomorrow, you know? So, why do we get these prophetic visions? Why are we told we have to heal and work through our things? Like, what is this spirit, this guide or guidance that we have that one is we're bringing each other together. We're teaching each other all these things. But it doesn't look like it's going to get better anytime soon. It looks like it's going to get worse. So how is this going to affect the normal person? How is it going to affect the people that have been kind of pushed in this direction of healing and understanding that we are more than a body and that our consciousness will live on from this experience?
Yeah,
And Drago, you got the book. I hope you know what I'm
off
talking
the
about from
market.
there.
That's wild.
Yeah, I think you originally said that you wanted to re-edit the book before you re-released it to change some theories and to update some information, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot of conspiracy stuff in here because Bob Mitchell was the alien conspiracy guy. But the when I first started to be taken out of my body, just like the contact experience, taken up into space, taken back down onto the planet, it was a different timeline. And I basically saw like apocalyptic end of the world garbage. And these were the first experiences that I had, which were utterly terrifying. And it looked like it was in our future. You know, um, I saw tanks, I saw things that weren't from a previous war. It's something in the future. Um, and it didn't make any sense to me because I saw it in America, you know? Um, but now as things are progressing, I'm thinking, damn, this stuff could happen at any time, um, which is a very scary thought.
Yeah, I feel like we're 5 minutes to midnight, and like all these ancient prophecies, they said all this was coming. A lot of people said that the war would come to the United States as that final epic mega war that would determine the fate of all consciousness. And I believe me and Laura was on the show last night, and I believe I said that the United States is the last stronghold. And the world is looking at us to defeat the bad guys because numerous countries, the top ones around the world, have been defeated. I've seen more people in the millions rise against their own governments than I ever seen in history ever. And it's happening exponentially. So I feel the paradigm shift has already happened. We're already waking up, and your visions and what you were shown is a result of us waking up and us going through this bifurcation of timelines. And I discovered through Dolores Cannon, through doing QHHT, that there's multiple timelines, and each soul signs up to experience a certain, if you're here now at this time and split in this time and space, you chose a specific way to die in that type of scenario. And it's what we do now. It's like, Laura, you said last night that Operation Looking Glass, we can only see till 2012 with the chronovisor. And I believe that they really don't know what's going to happen. And there's all these choices that we can make as a species. And depending on where you are at in life, what you did, how much internal transmutation you've been doing, facing the dark night of the soul, going through those physical pains, going on the inside instead of searching externally for the information like we were doing pre-COVID. COVID taught me a big lesson. It taught me to stop listening to people, because a lot of the people I followed, in the end, a lot of those people, I feel that they were just mouthpieces, and they weren't true pioneers, and some of us fell for it. No need to name names, certain people pop into mind, but it just taught you to discern what's going on, to listen to what's coming in your body, listen to the pains of your body. When you first got into this, there wasn't an easy way to do it. I think it was like you spent a solid year practicing Qigong 2 or 3 times a day before anything happened.
Yeah.
A solid year, man. No, most people won't do that. You're a warrior, man. You are literally a warrior, that you would spend all this time, despite all the odds against you, despite more than likely breaking down and crying, because the world is so painful. It's so painful to be in this body, to go through all this suffering and to not know what's causing it. QHHT and doctors, they sent me all the people you were talking about, the ones where the hospital system failed them, because they never understood that what they're suffering from is spiritual in nature. It's not physical. And Rockefeller Medicine, it's not trained to identify these things. They really don't know what they're doing. Most doctors don't know what they're doing. They're basically just shoving pharmaceuticals down your throat, guessing what the side effect's going to be or what's going to happen. But like, again, the 3 of us, we are literally warriors. We've been through the dark night of the soul. We've done the hard work. Our mission is to purify our body. We don't care. Like, we'll pass this information on to others, and it's important. But most people, no matter what information you present them, they truly don't listen because they're lazy. Most people I've come across, it's sheer laziness. They don't want to do that work. It has to be a lifelong thing to walk this path. It can't be something you're into as like a hobby. Most people that try QHHT and fell is because they treated it as a hobby. They truly did not step forward to try to search out the ones who were suffering and do everything they could to help that person. You know, it's just like, you want to heal people because you know what it was like to suffer that much, because no one could help you. Nobody. You know, your cousin in this life now, she was your sister in Egypt. And you were given this very profound life, and then you were shoved in this life. And it feels like, to have such a powerful gift and to know that you're shoved in a body where you can't express these gifts like you did in ancient times or other incarnations, it makes you feel powerless amongst you feeling so powerful. And I'm just now stepping into that power. I was hiding from the public for most of my life. I'm a lifelong SSP experiencer in my lab abductee. So I've hid my entire life from the public. It was Laura that brought me out of that dark night of the soul, because until her, I didn't post a single photo of myself I think it's been since, man, it's been almost 20 years.
And that's why I didn't recognize you, because I know your name and I've seen you interact on Facebook with me for years. You know, I always saw your name. And I just put two and two together just a couple weeks ago. You know, I'm like, oh, that's him.
That's
Oh,
funny.
amazing. Yeah.
It's awesome to be able to remember
The
me because
thumbnail comes to life.
Yes.
you were one of the first names I put on our guest list to interview. So when Laura said, "How about Jason Quitt?" I'm like, "Heck yeah, man! I'm freaking stoked. I've been waiting for that name to drop by forever." And like I said, I just seen you at Stairway to the Stars, and like every time I see you, man, you're freaking busy. Everybody's talking to you. You don't have time for nothing. So like every show I think I've maybe done 10 shows with you, man.
Mm.
And every single freaking moment that I had with any time to talk to you, you're always with someone else. So that's a blessing, man, and a curse, because it's like Laura, you know what it's like to go to these shows and like you don't get a single minute to yourself because you want to talk to everybody. You want to have the most amazing conversations in the world because they only take place at those shows, man. Like regular people, muggles, they don't go to those shows. It's like when we go to those shows, we find our spirit family. And that's why we do it long term, because like, man, every single show you just meet someone from another incarnation or another star system you recognize, and like that's what life is about, man.
I I love it. And going to these shows, you have to be out in public, in the sense where I can shake your hand. You know, we live kind of now behind screens, and it really takes the life out of it. But you know, when you get to sit down and, you know, I don't even know how many times I've had dinner with Laura. At, you know, we were in Philadelphia together. I think we were in Orlando, maybe. I'm trying to remember. We were definitely in LA and all this. I don't even know where we are, but we end up in the same places because we're all drawn together
I know,
in
it's so
person.
cool.
And that's how you know somebody. That's how you meet somebody. And it's one thing to like see somebody posting online or watching a video of them. You don't know who they are until, you know, you break bread with them, basically. So it's been such a pleasure to meet people like yourself, both of you. Um, and that's how we have to do it. We have to kind of be in each other's energy.
Totally. Yeah, it's so activating and just inspiring. I feel so filled up when I get home, just ah, just navigating this journey together and how much is being revealed. And I'm really excited about your next book. Do you have it to kind of show us
Yes.
the
Yeah,
cover?
yes. This is the book that I put out 2013 or 2023. Man, I'm like 10 years behind already. But it's called Astral Genesis. And you remember I keep saying my belief systems keep getting shifted and changed. I was writing a book. I'm still not finished it. It's basically the second level to the Egyptian posture, Salute to the Moon. And I'm writing this chapter on how the Egyptians saw death and the afterlife. And as I'm doing the research and I'm going through this and reading the pyramid texts and the, you know, the Book of the Dead, and just going over and over these lines, I start to see these connections to the stars and how they linked the path of the soul, the journey in the afterlife was actually an allegory to the path of the sun through the stars. You know, so this is where we get the stargates from, because you know, astrology, this is, you know, the sun goes through each house of the zodiac. And I found this knowledge going back not just to the beginnings of Egypt, but I found it in Samaria. I found it obviously in Babylon, which is the start of the popularization of astrology. But I found it going back all the way to Göbekli Tepe, and then I started to find it all over the world. And this kind of took me out of the kind of mystical understanding of, the mysteries of death, the mystery teachings of death, the afterlife, and all these things, and it grounded it into the cycles of time and the cycles of change. Just like the seasons of the sun, going from winter solstice, where the sun is dead, to when the sun rises, to spring, which is the resurrection, to the Most High, which is the June solstice. So the sun has a life cycle of itself, and the earth has a life cycle of itself, going through its seasons. And plants, animals, we're not separate from those cycles. We follow the same rhythms, and it's the same rhythms we find in nature, it's the same rhythms we find in the stars. And so I found this code, basically. That's what Astral Genesis is about. I found this code of cycles, this code of degrees of the sun, of degrees of time, how things are divided. And I found that this knowledge was so profound and so sacred that they basically hid it in their artwork. They hid it in their temples. They hid it in their myths and writings of the gods, going back to Göbekli Tepe or further. So that's to the last ice age. And I've become obsessed. I'm literally obsessed. I'm sitting here every day going through, like today, in the past couple days, I've been on the computer going through the earliest seals from Mesopotamia. I'm having trouble too. But basically, these stamps are going back 7,000 years in our past. And they have the codes that are found in Egypt. They have the codes that are found in America, and they're all exactly the same. So for some reason, Spirit is guiding me into this ancient language of the stars. I'll call it like the star language, which is very physical and down to earth. And that's what I've been working on recently. And that's what I wrote the book on, is taking all these mystical teachings, these mystical allegories of the gods from many different cultures, and putting them into the greatest story ever told, which is the story of the movement of the sun through the stars of the heavens. And now I can't see anything else.
Oh my gosh. I cannot wait
It's
to
all
look.
archetypes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was actually, you talk about the Anunnaki a lot, and they brought so much to this planet, including astrology. They brought writing, animal husbandry, acting, like everything. Everything is like derived from the Anunnaki. A lot of it is. I'm not saying everything, because we know there was a bunch of genetic programs happening on this planet before they arrived. A lot of people want to just focus on them as like the sole contributors, but like, look what they brought us. They brought us sacred geometry, the flower of life. They brought us genetic editing, so much stuff. Like, they had already mastered going inside the mind to purify yourself, to astral project, to remote view, all this stuff. And that's why I've been obsessed with the Anunnaki for about 20 years. I talk about them a lot. I don't know if Laura gets tired of me bringing up the Anunnaki, but like, for some reason,
I'm all about researching all that kind of stuff.
I feel that Giorgio Tsoukalos has aliens and I have Anunnaki. You know what I'm saying? Because like, everybody likes to blame it on aliens, but like, look what they contributed. Look what they brought. They brought the entire pantheon of Egyptian pharaohs, direct descendants. You know, like the Pyramid Wars, the Orion Wars. A lot of that stuff. It was something that just came to Earth as a result of all that stuff. It's very profound stuff, man.
Yes. And, this is where my introduction to it was, from that point of view that you're speaking about. And then after I started to get this code and I started to research all of these things, going to the actual ancient texts without it being edited, just straight translations, there's so much hidden knowledge in those texts. There's so much hidden information in the cylinder seals. And it's not in a language that can be translated like letters. It's a language of geometry.
Of the
And it's
subconscious.
yes. And basically, the only way I could describe it is magic. It's magic of mimicry. And what that means is that, let's say the sun travels through the sky at 15 degrees every hour, right? Like a clock. And the sun travels from winter solstice to the equinox at 23.5 degrees. Okay, so these are set mathematical forms. And so what they did was they took these set things, let's say 15 degrees, they took the 23.5 degrees and they made a grid using those angles only. And they drew all their imagery, they drew all their sacred objects to fit those directions so that they would embody the energy of the sun or the energy of the stars. They knew how to put the energy in there so that even if you don't understand what they're doing, and it's like a form of magic, is that, wow, why is that sacred object so powerful? It's because it's in resonance with natural laws, very, very specific things. And this is the language that I'm talking about when it comes to these ancient things. And when you talk about Anunnaki, it's almost exactly the same as the pantheon of Egypt, of ancient Egypt. Very interesting. You have Anu, which is the king of heaven, or An, if you go back to Sumeria, and Ki, his wife and consort. And Anu and Ki bore children, the Anunnaki. So you have Anu and Ki together, and you get Enlil and Enki. These are all names. They're sky gods, they're wind gods, they're earth gods. And it's the same thing from Egypt, like same with Shu and Tefnut, the sky and the earth, Nut and Geb. All these archetypes or all these hierarchies, they're virtually the same, just the names change.
Yeah, you can see that throughout all of our world religions. You have all these pantheons and mythos that mimic the exact descriptions and exploits and what they brought and how they were described. And a long time ago, I realized that it was like the top 30 world religions, all their gods were all born on the same day, December 25th. You trace that to Egypt. Horus is born on December 25th. I think it was Osiris is born on December 25th. They were all died. They were all resurrected on the third day. They had the same amount of followers. And it led me to believe that the story of Jesus is more ancient than we've ever been told, which led me to Sumeria. The more I would read these Sumerian tablets, the more I came to the conclusion that, number one, we've all been lied to, and that the Bible is basically just a summary form of ancient tablets. Like you have the Epic of Gilgamesh, you have the Atrahasis, story of Noah, you have the Enuma Elish, talks about the flood, all kinds of stuff, the seven lords of light. Like,
Also the underworld journey and retrieving like the sacred union love or visiting. Sorry, keep going though.
Yeah, Anan, it's the same thing. The oldest version of that is Ishtar or Anan, going back to Sumeria, which is basically the journey going into the underworld and resurrecting again. It's the same solar mythos of the sun dying for
Easter.
3 days. Yeah.
She's associated with Easter, right?
Yeah, Easter, Diana, like all these ancient gods going from Sumeria to Greek, Roman, because the Roman took a lot of this stuff and just kind of brought it together. But when you keep going back to these ancient sources, it's all the same story, just a way of keeping the knowledge alive. It's just like rising from the dead after the third day. What does a solstice mean? Solstice means stand still. That's the definition of a solstice. And what is it? It's the sun stands still for about 3 days before it's resurrected again. And that happens on December 21st. And then after the 24th, that's why we have Christmas, and the birth the next day is Horus. The sun is rising again on the eastern horizon. And this was the same thing with the story of the afterlife is you die, you go to the western hill or the western mound because the sun sets in the west. So the boat, the Egyptian boat of the dead, just like the ferry of the Greeks, the boat will take the soul with the sun into the underworld of the Western Hill. And this is why necropolises were in the hill. You know, they're in the mountain. And then you would go through the underworld. And if you go to the books of the dead, or the Egyptian books of the dead, or the books of the hours, it basically goes through the hours of night. So it's the hours of darkness is a gate. So each hour you have to pass through a gate of judgment. And each gate is a star or a star system.
That connected with Mott, though?
Yes, exactly. And so if you think of, it would be easier if I showed a picture, but if you looked at the scene of going through the judgment, where you have Anubis weighing the heart, and the deceased is being led to the chamber of Osiris, you have the scales, which we can say is Libra. It's the only non-animal of the zodiac is the scales. Because what happens in Libra is you have the equinox and you have 12 hours of night, 12 hours of darkness. So you have the equal scales. And you have Sirius, Anubis, weighing the heart. And Osiris is Orion. And it says all of this in the Book of the Dead. It's not like making this up. It literally says Osiris is Sa, Osiris is Orion. And so when you're thinking about that, the soul is equivalent to the sun. This was the whole equivalency. Soul is the sun. And we even call the sun soul, S-O-L, right? And so as you're going through the dead, or going through the process of death, they're taking you to Libra, which is the scales. The heart, let's say, gets eaten by the crocodile monster, which is like Scorpio, Hydra, all that stuff in the lower elliptic of the zodiac. But basically, as you're going, what's that?
His name is Amit the Devourer.
Yes. Yes. So as you're going through this process, it's the same process reflected in heaven as above, so below. So it's the sun passing through Libra. It's the sun going into Orion. And you'll see, let's say, a leg, a bull's leg on the table. The bull's leg is Arcturus and the Boots constellation. And during that time, during Christmas time, December 21st, if you look up into the sky, you're going to see Orion. It's the winter constellation. You're going to see Boots and Arcturus turned on its side. You're going to see it pointing to Sirius, which is the dog star. So everything that these myths are talking about, they're veiled in this star language of how things work in the heavens, which I find absolutely fascinating, that this story is interwoven through all the religions, not just ancient Egypt.
Sirius is where Marduk got his name from. Marduk actually means, Mar means the son of, and Duke means dog. And Sirius is known as the dog star.
Mm-hmm.
It's really compelling stuff because you find out Marduk named the constellations. And I never realized that that Libra was the only one that was a physical object. When you said that, I was like, wow, mind blown. Never truly thought about it that way, but like, you're right, man. Like, it's all symbolism. True knowledge is all archetypal symbolism. And that's what I study the most heavily. You take me to any ancient civilization, I will point out everything. And like most people won't even see it. Like I can't even go to major cities where they have old post offices or old buildings because they're all cloaked in ancient symbols, Egyptian symbols, Freemason symbols, and no one sees anything. And it's only the adept that's trained to identify these symbols that unlock the true hidden knowledge.
And once you understand these symbols and I was looking at these hieroglyphics and I have no idea what they mean, right? I really don't have any. I just see the symbols. And as I'm decoding the symbols, I see a story of what this is supposed to show. So I write the story down, and I I came across an article the other day on the internet that was written in like 2020, before I came to my conclusions, and it was like, oh, Egyptologists say that this scene means this, and I'm like, that's exactly what I wrote. So I didn't even know the language; I just knew about symbolism. So once you start unlocking these keys, suddenly there's a whole other story right in front of you that if you're not taught these keys, um, you're not going to understand what you're looking at, and language becomes irrelevant. You can have the writing next to it explaining what the symbol means, or you could just understand symbolism, and then you can see that symbol in this language and see the symbol in that language, and you'll come to the exact same conclusion of what that means. Just like an emoji.
It's true they figured out that it's funny how emojis are coming back. It's basically the Egyptian writing system, and we use a simple symbol to convey our emotions or to convey an idea. And it's simpler to show a subconscious image to make you understand more than a paragraph would.
Like I'm working on a new thing right now where um, I think I figured out exactly what a Jed pillar is, um, symbolically, right? And this thing is kicking my ass. I'm working on this for a while now, um, and it's this little thing is so complicated, but the answer is so simple. And I think that once you start to see it and understand the reason why this means Osiris' spine, what is Osiris? Why does Osiris rise? Osiris is the god of vegetation. What rises when Osiris is resurrected? The Nile. And what happens is the reeds, the plants, grow and it rises. So vegetation rises on the earth for about 4 months, and you have 4 levels of growth over those months. So Osiris rises, then he dies. The sun reaches a certain point, and then plants stop growing. You have to harvest. If you look at the Jed, it's reeds, and there's 4 ropes around it to hold those reeds, 4 layers. I mean, there's so much symbolism in this one little thing that connect to all these stories of Osiris dying, Osiris rising, and it's all packed into one little symbol. So once we start to, and when I present this, hopefully I can present this, I'm going to show you how the story works geometrically. So there's no opinion about it. This is the angle, this is where the sun is, this is what happens to the Jed in that time of the year. Therefore, it's telling you exactly what it needs to tell you. That's the level of understanding that I want to get to in my research, is that I don't want somebody else to tell me what it is. I think every single symbol has a very specific reason why it's shaped like that, why it looks like that. There's a story, and I'm not satisfied with an interpretation of what that means. I want to know exactly, why did they put that angle there? Why did they design it this way? And how is it connected to the stories that are told about it. So that's where I am in my research, is really trying to decode all these little minute details of things. And through that, it answers so many other questions. And once you know that in the symbolism, then I can go across the world, see a similar thing and say, oh, it follows the same laws that are in something else from across the world. And then you could apply that knowledge. So the work is in this book. This is where the discovery is made. And then I'm still taking those keys. And like I said, all I've been working on the past couple of days is just applying those codes to ancient seals. And it's like these stories are just opening up to me. It's incredible.
Wow, that's
So
incredible.
would you say that the jet pillar is connected to Kundalini? Because I remember the Egyptians referred to it as the fire serpent. And you had mentioned that it meant the spine of Osiris, but it also means the spine of the bull. And the bull was the personification of Enlil. And when you were taken in your astral journeys, Thoth showed you Osiris.
Yeah.
And I bet it was pretty shocking, because I remember you said that he was missing his legs and he had the head of a bull. And it automatically reminded me of the story of the fight that caused him to be dismembered into 13 parts. And Queen Isis had to find all of his body parts. She found everything but one, and then made the golden phallus, made love to it, and then Hornet Horse was born. But one of the biggest Freemason secrets at the 33rd level is the father becomes the son. So I believe that a lot of these pantheons of gods, I believe that a lot of times when they died, they were just resurrected into the new body, the new name. Because Set, yeah, the Pyramid Wars and Set killing him, and wow, man.
Well, if you go back to the teachings of Osiris, um, Osiris and Horus, you can say they're father and son, but it's really the same being. And it's almost like Osiris dies in the Western horizon, and then it goes through this transformation and is reborn again as Horus. And they say this over and over again in the pyramid texts, that Osiris becomes Horus. So it's this kind of transformation. And, when you go into the text, like Set plays a very, very interesting role, because he's the brother of Osiris, and he's the protector of Ra. He's a protector of the sun. So he stands at the front of the boat every single night with his spear, protecting the sun from the dragon, So it's like he plays this dual role, and he wanted to take over the world. That's the whole story. He wanted to be king. This is why he killed Osiris, and this is why he was warring with Horus. And this goes also back to the allegories of the astral theology, where Horus is Ophiuchus, and Set is Scorpio. And basically, the Scorpion kills Osiris, and they're completely. If you look at Taurus, and you look at Scorpio on the zodiac, they're opposing signs, right? So you have Set, which is the darkness or the night, killing Osiris. So when Scorpio rises, Osiris is dead, so Set's in charge. And when Orion rises, Scorpio is back in the underworld, and Ophiuchus is Horus. And if you look at the zodiac, Ophiuchus stands on the head of the scorpion. So he fights the scorpion and wins. So he's victorious. So it's Ophiuchus or Horus that stands. He has his foot on the scorpion in the sky. This is also why they say Horus is risen as the god, because they're complete opposites in the sky. Ophiuchus and Taurus or Orion are opposites in the sky. So when
Right.
one rises, one falls, and this is the cycles of time that play out every single year. So when we're talking about these gods and we're talking about these ancient scriptures, we're actually talking about the movements of the stars in heaven, and we have no idea what we're talking about.
Oh my gosh. And we're so connected to it, and being so unconscious and distracted, I think, is the root of all the illness and disease, because people aren't in tune with that. It's just incredible, your knowledge. Oh my God.
That's what I'm trying to say, is that the first knowledge, or my opinion is, we became human, we became conscious once we understood the cycles of time in the stars. The moment we learn that, it's the moment we can map the earth. It's the moment we could plant and grow things and become, farmers. That is the moment we became human, is my belief. Is so the first language of humanity is a star language. And this is why we're so connected to the stars. This is why everybody loves UFOs and aliens and the stories of the gods, because there is something so fundamental in those archetypes that it punches us just hearing these stories, and it draws us into these mystical thinkings. And this is where I'm at now, is, yeah, I've had all these crazy experiences in the spiritual world and learning about all these things. But now I'm so fascinated with how our minds are patterned, how our energies are patterned, how we react, how we're pushed, how we're pulled, and how it's all connected to just cycles of time and the movement of the stars. And this is the root of what we call astrology right now, but this is like the first language. This is, and I know you do astrology readings, so I hope I'm talking your language too here. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I'm learning so much. Can't wait
You
to.
could actually see Laura get excited when you were speaking about the 13th zodiac and all that stuff. She was like really, and she's like, oh my God, you're right. Rises and falls. I wish I knew astrology, man, and how to read all that stuff. For some reason, it's always blocked me my whole life. And I know that's the secret to everything. Like knowing what your birth chart says and what skills you came to this planet with and what you were going to do. It's all predestined in your star chart.
And what they believe, this is very ancient stuff that we're talking about. What they believed is that when you're born into this world, the first breath that the child takes, it solidifies the blueprint of the energy field. So whatever planets, whatever stars, whatever time of year you're in, that information is like stamped on your energy field from your first breath, because you're going from the world, just like in the Bible, they say the firmament is separating the waters, so you're coming from the waters of your mother. And when you are separated, when you come into this world, suddenly you're stamped with this energy field. And that's makes your influence throughout your life. And that's basically the philosophy of astrology, right?
That's amazing analogy. I just put that together. I was like, wow. Because like the female body inside the womb, and then you're born into the physical, like that's literally what that means.
Yeah. And it's the first breath. And in ancient philosophy, it was like, don't get me wrong, your fetus, it's a living thing inside you, but what they believed was, you don't become fully human until you take that first breath, because you're entering from one world to the other. And that breath was actually the god. It was the god actually entering your body, like the neteru, the natural forces. So for you to breathe, just having air in your body, you have a god within you. That's what's pumping your blood. That's what's giving you life, is this air. Um, so it's just, again, mystery school teachings of the elements and things like that. Yeah.
I love it. Wow. We could talk to you forever. And I know, gosh, we're already coming up to, um, I think a good possible closing point. It's hard to let go. I just want to continue to ask questions, but out of respect for your time and everything, is there anything you still want to ask Drago, or anything we didn't kind of cover that you want to make sure we bring up?
I just want to
Um,
say this was a very profound conversation. Like, I haven't really heard you speak this way before. Like, normally in other videos, you have a different type of energy, and I felt like you entered this conversation out of your heart and emotionally, and you're speaking from not the mind, but actually in your heart. And I can really appreciate that, man, because most people only want to speak from the mind. So it was inspiring to hear you speak slower and to speak that way, man, because it awakened a lot of possibilities and you activate a lot of ideas in my head. So I believe you kind of passed that subconscious symbolism into me through your words. And even like being around you, like you just feel a type of power. And I know it's connected to Egypt and all these other star systems, man, but like, thank you for the conversation, man.
well, thank you for having me. And like I say, I don't pair anything coming into any talk because I just go with, you feel the energy of the room, right? You know what you can say and what you can't say with certain people. So you just kind of go with the flow. But um, honestly, right now, we're in this kind of post-COVID world. We're just starting to get our lives back slowly. Um, I believe I'm going to be at Contact in the Desert again coming up in June. So that's going to be really fun. And in the meantime, I'm trying so hard to work on these new books, but I'm still being pulled back into this book. So I don't know why. I guess I haven't figured it out yet. There's still another step there that I need to get out. Um, but if I'm right about this, if I'm right about this code, it rewrites history completely. For example, history tells us that it was only 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago that they discovered the tilt of the earth that gave the seasons. And this is what's being taught in school. I can prove that they knew about that stuff 12,000 years ago.
Isn't that the reason why they had to put the pyramids on all these different planets to fix that tilt and that wobble that happened from that mega explosion of that asteroid belt?
That is definitely a see this. All I can say about that is there is a story that talks about how there is, and I've seen this in visions a long time ago, how there was a major problem in the solar system and how they used the pyramids to rebalance this energy system. But again, it's so much more complicated than that. And it's hard to get into these topics without stepping on people's toes. You know what I mean? Because um, all I can say is that when we start to see different histories come through, let's say like the histories of Atlantis or histories of Lemuria or histories of the Galactic Wars, all these things, it may not have happened in our timeline. All right. This may be the mind working out scenarios in other timelines that we have built off of, so um, because I've seen many things and sometimes things that contradict other things. So we have to ask ourselves, why is there contradictory things? Um, and the only way I can work that through is that somehow there's a feedback system where the mind actually works through different scenarios to create whatever reality we're in. And I'm still not there yet, so that's why I'm having difficulty expressing those ideas. Do you
I
understand what I'm
I
saying?
mean, I had the same thing happen to me, and I came to the conclusion through all these sessions with QHHT that the answer is both yes and no. Because we're in a multiverse. So everybody focusing on one kind of scenario, I believe it's incorrect, because you're right, the mind works this out and everybody thinks we're on this one timeline. But that's what the Mandela effect is. It shows you that there is no one timeline and everybody's working out this multiplicity of whatever the mind needs to work out, because there's only one mind that exists. And we're just a spark of that mind. And I don't believe a solid timeline can exist.
Right. And, this is why the first law of Hermeticism is basically all is the mind. And the more that we understand that, the more these things make sense. And the mind is so powerful that it creates things in the multidimensional world. And our beliefs create things in the multidimensional world. And this knowledge was known about for a very, very long time. And it's very sad that people don't believe in this stuff anymore, because there are ancient gods, there are ancient entities, both positive and negative, that exist. And even if you believe in them or not, they exist because they're part of this collective consciousness. And all these stories that we hear in the media and in past history, they exist in the mental plane as a reality, and you can tap in there and go there. This is how a lot of psychics or people that are seeking out knowledge, we can actually take our mind and go into those fields to learn these different histories and learn these different things. And maybe this is a good way to close the show, because we're getting into some really heavy, deep water here, is that if there's groups of people that pray or believe in a certain being, that being is created in a space, in this multidimensional space, and can interact with humanity. So we also have to be careful what we fear and what we also put our faith into. So if you're working with people and going through trauma, and they have certain belief systems, you can, let's say, call on their angels, because those angels exist in that mental plane of reality. They exist and they have power. All right. And so do the demons, and this is what you start to learn with the shamanism, that we can create our own demons and we can create our own angels. And it all depends on where we put our mind and where we put our emotions and what we feed. So if you're going to feed that addiction, you're going to feed that entity. If you're going to feed that meditation, you're going to feed that angel, so you're building this energetic structure connection to these realities. So all I have to say is we just have to be careful and responsible for the energies that we start to pull into ourselves, positive or negative. We have to understand that these things are real, they exist, but we have to first understand that all is the mind. And this is where these scenarios are coming from. But the mind manifests reality. So if you say, oh, it's all in your mind, it's not real. No, it's in your mind and it is real. And this is what we have to understand.
Beautiful. Wow.
I
Just
hope that made sense. I'm just
absolutely. What
rambling
a
at this
beautiful way
point.
to close. No, that's
No, it's very
so
profound, man. Very
absolutely right
profound.
on. And that's what mindfulness and being conscious is all about. And what is awakening, being mindful, being embodied, being aware. So appreciate you. I can't wait to run into you again. And I've just really enjoyed this. I can't wait to actually listen back, and I can't wait to dive into your book. So it's just been really amazing. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Awesome. He has the original books. Like he has the original stuff.
Nice.
Amazing.
I like
Yeah.
because when you talk online, you always say my original editions and then my newest ones. I'm like, I got the originals.
Yeah, you do.
Wow.
It's a pleasure actually talking to you, Jason. In closing, do you have any specific messages or insights that you believe are crucial for individuals to embrace in this transformative journey we call life?
We have to breathe instead of react.
Breathe.
It doesn't matter what situation you're in. It could be health, trauma, relationships, work. There's only one answer, and it's just to close your eyes and breathe. That's the only answer there is right now.
Beautiful, great advice.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Thanks again. And yeah, always a pleasure, and wish you both the best in the new year.
Thank you so much. And send my love to Monica and you as well. Really, really enjoyed this. Thanks again.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Until next time.
Till next time.